Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 Shruti Sharma.
Hello and welcome to ForumIAS. Today is 7th April 2023 and these are all the important articles of the day. Without much further ado, let's go to the first article. It is about the amendment in the IT rules. What does it say? So basically, the changes that are coming to effect from now are that if the Press Information Bureau, which is enlisted, if they flag a news as fake news, a digital intermediary has to take it down. Say for example, we have Twitter. And on Twitter, some user is posting something against the central government, which turns out to be a fake news. Now, PIB, the Press Information Bureau, PIB will flag this to Twitter, which is the intermediary here. Now, it is up to Twitter to remove this comment. But before this new rule came into place, there was Section 79 that provided immunity to this intermediary. Basically, it is not something Twitter themselves have published. It is something that was put up on the platform by a third party, by a user. So in this case, Twitter had gotten immunity. But through the amendment that has been effected now, if PIB flags this to Twitter, then Twitter is not subject to any protection from Section 79. So basically, why this Section 79 is important? A couple of years back, there was a question in mains about Section 66 of IT Act. So they didn't give any explanation. It was just given like this and we had to answer this question. So if a person doesn't know what is this section, they would be in a fix. That is why I am highlighting this Section 79. It might come in prelims. They might ask Section 79 is related to something like that. Or they can ask in mains what is the fallout of the immunity under Section 79 taken back from the intermediaries. So that way you have to remember this section. The news that is in focus today is that if a government appointed bureau like PIB flags an information, then Twitter has to take it down and they don't have immunity for third party publishings as per the Section 79. So basically, if there is a information that is published by a third party, say a user, what PIB will do is PIB will take it to the relevant government department and ask for their opinion. If it turns out to be a fake news, then PIB will flag it to Twitter. So in this context, we have to know certain things about the IT rules. This is important from prelims perspective. It can come in statement-based questions. So what does the IT rule say? It says that there is a grievance redressal mechanism for OTT platforms as well as digital portals. So a social media company should have a chief compliance officer who will look into compliance, how far the companies are complying with the rules and laws that are in place for them, and there should be a nodal contact person with whom the law enforcement can get into touch 24/7. So there should also be a grievance officer. That is, say for example, there is a grievance. A woman is complaining against a supposed harassment. They have to register the grievance within 24 hours and it has to be disposed of within 15 days. And what about removal of content? So if there is any complaint that says that the dignity of users, particularly women, is affected Social media platforms are required to remove that content 24 hours after the complaint is made. The complaint itself should be registered within 24 hours and the content should be removed 24 hours within the complaint is made. And these companies should produce a monthly report saying how many complaints they had received, how many they have disposed of, what is the status of these complaints, etc. will be there. Okay, so for the social media companies, there will be three levels of regulation. One is self-regulation. We have the chief compliance officer who will check whether there is compliance with the laws, and a self-regulatory body of the social media companies. And the third level of regulation is the Information and Broadcasting Ministry. For this rules, INB Ministry has designated PIB as the agency which will flag these kind of content. So thus we can understand the three level regulation which is enforced upon the social media intermediaries or digital intermediaries. Now we'll go to the next article. It is about the India-Bhutan relationship. What is the status of India-Bhutan relationship? Have there been any fallouts? Is it still intact? Why are we discussing this? Because the King of Bhutan visited India. We are discussing India-Bhutan relations in this context. And one more thing also happened before the King of Bhutan visited India. It is that the Bhutanese side and Chinese side had talks on border issues. So if Bhutan and China are having talks on border issues, obviously that will have some impact on India. This is the context in which we are today discussing the India-Bhutan relations. So why is India-Bhutan relationship very unique? We cannot just treat Bhutan as a mere neighbor. It is a very important and strategic one because it is a buffer between two powerful states, that is India and China, and we share 600-kilometer long border with Bhutan. Though Bhutan is supposedly a buffer state, India didn't allow the Big Brother syndrome apply when it comes to Bhutan. India didn't act very overbearing on Bhutan. It was a mutual relationship. That is the speciality of this relationship. This is evident from the fact that India is Bhutan's biggest development partner and India is the largest source of imports for Bhutan. Bhutan is a landlocked country and from India only largest amount of imports go into Bhutan. And it's not just that India is single-handedly benefiting from this relationship. It is also that India is offering mutual benefit to Bhutan, wherein hydroelectricity is generated in Bhutan and India only set up these hydroelectric power plants and India purchases that electricity, and because of this hydroelectricity, Bhutan is the country with the highest per capita income in South Asia. So this shows that the relationship between India and Bhutan is not single-sided. It is not dictated by India. It is rather of mutual trust. So what is the motivation of Bhutan in this case? Bhutan, they wanted to be seen as a separate entity compared to Tibet. So in 17th century, Bhutan became distinct from Tibet and India has respected it even during the pre-independence time, and today India is continuing the relationship the British had built. So the Bhutanese identity is respected by Indians. It is not seen as something that is distinct from that of Tibetan identity. Okay, so it is seen as something that is special. Bhutan is given their space, right? Next, if Bhutan is having border talks with China and if there is breakthrough in that talk, would it be a concern for India? That we should explore here. So China obviously has been seeking a stronghold in Bhutan for decades. It is for their strategic motives, but whenever Bhutan is deciding their boundary in the west of Bhutan, so we have Bhutan, we have the Indian state of Sikkim. Pardon me for this poor drawing. Here we have China. So, if Bhutan is deciding its western boundary, then it is of very high relevance to India. It is the tri-junction between India, Bhutan and China. And whenever Bhutan is taking up these talks, they are fully conscious of India's strategic needs, and Indian diplomats were in confidence when these talks between Bhutan and China were going on. We were not kept in the dark. And more than that, there is 2007 Treaty of Friendship, which marks the India-Bhutan relations. So, India and Bhutan always keep consulting at a higher level so that this friendship treaty is held in letter and spirit. So, what happened in this India-Bhutan relation is a major milestone, which is the Doklam standoff. So, China has been eyeing this Doklam region for years, and China was even ready to cede many parts in northern Bhutan to Bhutan so that China would gain control over this small territory that is Doklam. But even Bhutan is aware of what they are getting into. If China gets this small territory of Doklam, obviously there will be incursion of China into Bhutanese territory as well. And this Doklam, it overlooks the Chumbi Valley, and this is the Chumbi Valley is overlooking the Chicken's Neck, that is the Siliguri corridor. So that way, Doklam standoff has a significant relationship with India's security as well. So if we have to see that in map, here we have the Chumbi Valley, we have the Tri-Junction, we have the Doklam region, and here we have the Chicken's Neck, that is the Siliguri corridor. Here we can see Doklam region is here. This is Bhutan outpost. We have the Chumbi Valley. This is Bhutan. This is India, the state of Sikkim. We have the Tri-Junction. This is the point of contention. And here we can see the Chicken's Neck corridor, which is zoomed out here. Okay. So, this is the security threat that is coming from China, and Bhutan is wedged between these two powers. And what happened as a result of the Doklam standoff? There was a very good expression of nationalism in India. It was India and Indians were very vocal during this standoff, and Bhutan, by seeing that, they felt that they are being squeezed in a rivalry between India and China. Generally, they don't have any problems. They were feeling that Bhutan is getting crushed in a power struggle between two big brothers. So we have to address this kind of a trust deficit. Now, basically, the Bhutanese youngsters, they come to India to study. This kind of educational connectivity is getting slightly disturbed. We have to do enough outreach to make this right. Especially the younger Bhutanese people have to be reached out to, because there are negative sentiments that are seen in the social media in Bhutan. There are negative sentiments, wrong information about Bhutan. And there is this perception among young Bhutanese that Indians are using security issues to keep Bhutan under India's control. But the reality is that India and Bhutan relationship, it is not just motivated by economy, it is a transactional relationship. There is elements of geographical proximity, economic connectivity, a lot of things come into play. It is not a single-sided relationship. So there needs to be outreach, especially to the younger Bhutanese, and there is spiritual underpinnings with Bhutan in our India-Bhutan relationship. It is a Buddhist monarchy, it is a theocracy. So we have to tackle the Chinese challenge, and we have to pursue this relationship with trust and complete faith. India also should not be very paranoid about its relationship with Bhutan. So that is what is being discussed in this article. This is important from mains point of view. Indian government has a neighborhood first policy. In consonance with that, every year in GS2 of our mains, there is one question that is asked from the neighborhood, and there is a lot of chance that in this mains there might be a question on Bhutan, and UPSC has this tendency of picking up question from 2-3 years back, and this Doklam standoff was there 2-3 years back. So this article becomes very important. Keep it bookmarked somewhere. Now we'll move on to the next article. It is about real money gaming. That is betting, gambling. We see ads of it everywhere these days owing to the cricketing leagues that are happening now. I don't want to take names, but we know what we are talking about. So earlier we saw the IT rules that were affecting the social media intermediaries. That was not the only part of the IT rules. This gambling, betting, this also was dealt with in the IT rules. So it is to regulate the online real money games in which users are piling in their money to play. And there has been an advisory that is warning the media entities not to display advertisements of these real money betting games. It is asking for cricket betting, any sports betting, forming of your teams, etc. So government is taking a stricter view towards these kind of advertisements, and failing of which government will take appropriate legal action. So what is the issue here with online real money games is that there will be a self-regulatory body, and this particular game will be referred to the self-regulatory body. The self-regulatory body will determine whether it is permissible or not permissible. If it is permissible, then states will be able to take action. Why states? Because betting and gambling is in state list. Ultimately, only states can take action. If it is permissible, then it will be allowed to function. If it is not permissible and they are still functioning, the states will take action against them. And if there is no real money involved, they need not approach the self-regulatory body also. And these self-regulatory bodies will be recognized soon. So whatever betting games that are happening now, they will first go to the self-regulatory body and seek approval, and as per that only they will be allowed to function. Coming to the analysis part of it, as I have already mentioned, betting and gaming come under the state list, and in this regard, Goa and Sikkim, these are the two states which permit betting. And as far as central level, it is dealt with the help of IT Act of 2000. That is why this particular rules come under the IT rules. And what are the issues with betting? So it might lead to mental health issues. It might lead to addiction. So if they are addicted to these kind of games, it will affect the social life of a person. And if they get addicted, they are also inclined towards violence. That will also happen. And as a matter of policy, it is a regulatory gray area. There is not a lot of clarity. And what about data protection? Obviously, if you are putting your real money, you will be giving your account details. What is the guarantee of that data being protected? On the other hand, if we look at it from an economic angle, it is a growing industry and it gives revenue to the states. Then what is the problem here? The negative effect is money laundering. So this also needs to be addressed. And offshore gambling, this kind of subverts the aim of sporting leagues also. Though it is a growing industry, though it gives out revenue, there is also an angle of ethics that is involved, because these games, these apps are designed to make it addictive, and there is a lack of informed consent. How far your data is being taken. Again, there is a concern about data protection, the ethicality. That is why, though liquor sales are permitted, drug sales are not permitted because of the ethicality involved. If they are permitted, they would also generate a lot of revenue, right? So though this is a growing industry, it has potential for revenue, there is an angle of ethicality, and that is why there are reasonable restrictions which are imposed upon these betting and gaming apps. Next article, it is about distribution of fortified rice through PDS. So the news says that 269 districts and 27 states have started distributing for fortified rice under targeted PDS system. So, and not only in the PDS, this fortified rice is being distributed or provided through the ICDS, which is the Integrated Child Development Services, which deals with the Anganwadi, etc. And PM Poshan, this is for achieving nutritional outcomes in children, adolescent, young women. So, in these schemes, fortified rice is being used. Now, from our exam perspective, we have to learn what is fortified rice. So, fortification is done to staple foods which are taken every day, like rice, milk, salt. To this, there is fortification. Already we have salt fortification. We are consuming fortified salt. It is fortified with iodine. Most of the salt that is sold in market today is fortified with iodine in order to deal with a disease called as goiter. Now we can see that there is no large scale prevalence of this disease. Similarly, there is malnutrition in India, and in order to address that, rice is being fortified. They can be fortified with key vitamins and minerals like iron, iodine, zinc, vitamin A and D, and it is done to staple foods. That is very important. And these nutrients, they can be naturally present in that food item, or it can be induced also. It may be naturally, it may not be organically present in the food also. And it is just a complementary strategy. It is so if we are to address malnutrition, this is one prong of the strategy. It is not be all end all to solve malnutrition. Okay, so as per FSSAI, which is the Food Safety Authority in India, in 1 kg of fortified rice, there will be 28 milligram to 42.5 milligram iron, and there will be 75 to 125 microgram of folic acid and 0.75 to 1.25 microgram of vitamin B12. These may be present. This is not very important to know from exam point of view. This has been put in place just for your information. Next, why some states are having problems with it? If we go back to this article, states like Kerala are having problems with it. Why? Because there is not lot of evidence. There is inconclusive evidence as per the safety of these kind of fortification and its effectiveness. There are inconclusive evidences in this regard, so some states are having problem with it. And whoever is sponsoring the studies, they are the food companies. So again, there is a conflict of interest. So if they are financing these kind of studies, obviously these studies will have a kind of inclination which is going in line with the interest of these food companies. So that is also one concern. Another concern is hypervitaminosis. So what happens is malnutrition is a multifaceted problem. If you are just overloading rice with these vitamins, it will lead to hypervitaminosis, which might lead to toxicity, overexcitement, irritability. Even vitamins in larger concentration will lead to toxicity. And we have a predominantly cereal based diet that has to be solved. Only then these kind of interventions will have some effect. Instead of addressing this problem, if you are just adding 2 one synthetic chemical vitamins, it will not solve the larger problems. And if we are going for fortified rice, every time the farmers have to buy these seeds from food companies, so it will benefit the food companies, it will not benefit the indigenous population. So this is against sustainability. So that is also one argument. So what happens is, if there are iron fortified rice, the natural sources like millets, green leafy vegetables, fresh foods, liver, all these things, they will not attain that much importance because this iron fortified rice is there. But we need a variety in our diet. We need a colorful palette, right? So in that case, the importance of these foods might decline. These are all some of the criticisms against fortification. But from prelims perspective, you have to know what is fortification, where it is done, and who is the regulatory authority in this case. Alright, and which are all the schemes that are utilizing the fortified rice. Moving on to the next article. So this is a very simple article. It talks about changes in the foreign trade policy. So it gives room for second-hand goods imports. So what happens is that the goods that are brought in for repair, refurbishing, reconditioning, re-engineering with an intent to re-export them. So they should not, the faulty goods should not be dumped in India. They can be imported to export back. That is the idea, to promote circular economy. This particular change has been brought about in our foreign trade policy, and whatever waste that is generated in this process of refurbishment, they will be disposed of according to the environmental laws of our country. Okay, so that is what this particular article says. It is not a ruse for dumping faulty products into our country. It is just for refurbishing and re-exporting. Now, this is the end of the discussion. We will discuss some previous year questions. This is from 2019 prelims. Okay. Who among the following Mughal emperors shifted emphasis from illustrated manuscripts to album and individual portrait? A. Humayun, B. Akbar, C. Jahangir, D. Shah Jahan. Okay, so the answer here is Jahangir. In Humayun's period, illustrated manuscripts started. Okay. In Akbar's period, it flourished. Best example is Humayun Nama, which was written by Gulbadan Begum. And then it changed to individual portrait during Jahangir's time. Shah Jahan's time was known for architecture more than paintings. Okay, so the answer here is Jahangir. Atal Innovation Mission is set up under the A. Department of Science and Technology, B. Ministry of Labour and Employment, C. Niti Aayog, D. Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Answer is C. Niti Aayog. Atal Innovation Mission is to induce innovation in especially schools, and it is spearheaded by Niti Aayog. Next, on 21st June, the sun A. does not set below the horizon at the Arctic Circle, B. does not set below the horizon at Antarctic Circle, C. shines vertically overhead at noon on the equator, D. shines vertically overhead at the Tropic of Capricorn. So, it is 21st June, which is summer in Northern Hemisphere. In Northern Hemisphere, summer, what happens? We have our tilted earth. Excuse me for the poor drawing. So, the equator, focus on the Northern Hemisphere. So what happens? The sun is here. Excuse me for this kind of drawing. So it is directly overhead at the Tropic of Cancer, not the Tropic of Capricorn. So this option is wrong. It is not vertically overhead the equator. So this is wrong. Sun does not set below the horizon. No. During the summer solstice, this is 21st June is the summer solstice. So that is the winter in the Antarctic Circle. So it will be completely dark. So this is also wrong. It does not set below the horizon at the Arctic Circle. So always this Arctic Circle will always be illuminated by the sun. As we know, the days get longer and longer as the latitude increases, right? And in Arctic Circle, the sun does not set at all during the summer solstice. So answer is A. Next question. With reference to Mughal India, what is or are the difference or differences between Jagirdar and Zamindar? 1. Jagirdars were holder of land assignments in lieu of judicial and police duties, whereas Zamindars were holders of revenue rights without obligation to perform any duty other than revenue collection. 2. Land assignments to Jagirdars were hereditary and revenue rights of Zamindars were not hereditary. Select the correct answer. The first option is correct. So there is a Jagirdar and they have to perform some other duties also. Zamindar is purely for the collection of revenue. And second statement is wrong because Zamindari became hereditary, not the other way around. Jagirdari system was not largely hereditary except the Vatan Jagir. Vatan Jagir, which were given to the Rajputs. Only that was hereditary. Not all Jagirs were hereditary. So this statement is wrong. Answer is A, 1 only. That's it for today's discussion. Follow us on all the social media platforms. This is Indumati signing off. Have a good day. Thank you.